Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Firstly, I would like to welcome you all once again, and thank you so much for being part of Shield Virtual 2020, a cybersecurity and identity and access management online seminar. Very, very interesting session from within. And before I jump into mine, I just want to quickly do an audio and video check. So if you can hear me loud and clear, and if you have no trouble viewing the screen, please drop in a yes message in the chat box. Perfect. All right. I do have a couple of confirmations already. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Joel. Thank you, Faisal. Thank you. All right. Once again, a very, very quick disclaimer. We have been facing rains, and I recently also had a power switch back. So I just want to quickly let you know, in case I get disconnected due to the worst case of my backup turning on, please stick with me. I will rejoin back in less than a minute's time. I just wanted to quickly put that across. I'm working remotely, I'm checking in from home. And also, if there's any discrepancies with my audio or video, please keep me notified by dropping a message in the chat box so I can quickly check my connection, rectify it, and get started with today's session. All right, so I do understand that we are pressed for time. I'm going to keep my session as brief as possible, so please stick with me for another 20 minutes as I walk you through modern multi-factor authentication to protect your systems, applications, and data. Also, if you have any questions that you'd like me to address, please feel free to drop in your questions in the Q&A tab. I would love to take time to answer your questions during the session itself, but my session, the next 20 minutes, is going to be very relatable to every single one of us, simply because of the fact that we are all, at the end of the day, end users. We all still work with a hybrid setup. We log in to a native Active Directory every single day. And these are certain pain points, or these are certain security perspectives that I want to pass on in this particular cybersecurity virtual seminar, starting with the importance of having log-on two-factor authentication. I'm going to move on to talk about how easy and seamless it is to have multi-factor authentication, how easy and seamless it is to perform password resets as an end user with multi-factor authenticator, and also pass on certain IT best practices when it comes to passwords, and finally walk you through restricted or controlled access to applications and authenticators. So this is the agenda put forth in front of your screen today. I'm going to start with log-on two-factor authentication. I'm sure every single one of you know what two-factor authentication is and how it works, simply because of the fact that we all have used a secondary factor of authentication at different checkpoints. For our social media accounts, we've used it for our email accounts. We've also very well used it for banking accounts and certain private accounts, right? So why not apply the concept of two-factor authentication for logons, which is as critical as your financial accounts or your banking accounts, and also taking into account the factor that this will protect data, this will protect identities, and keep you multiple steps ahead of a potential cybersecurity attack by simply adding one additional factor of authentication. So I am going to talk about that. I thankfully have a pre-configured setup right here up and running. I will be working with AD Service Plus, which, as Vivian rightly pointed out, is a module in AD 360, our Identity and Access Management Solution Suite. I'm sticking to AD Service Plus today, but once again, if you do have any specific questions, please let me know, even questions on AD 360, and we'll be able to take it up, or generally questions on password management, identity protection, and security as well. So what I'm going to do now is pretend to be an end user and log on, take a remote desktop connection to my account. So my first factor of authentication is naturally my password. What typically happens is I will have a one-click seamless access to my account as an end user. But what's going to happen in this particular case is I need to verify my identity with one of the authenticators listed on my screen, and this authentication happens with AD Service Plus. So let me start with the simple security questions. I click on continue. I answer my security questions. And once I then have access to my Windows machine. The good news is you can enforce every single user in your organization to go through a secondary factor of authentication before getting access to their Windows, Mac, or Linux systems. But more importantly, their critical data especially during the times of remote working. So that is the first step, first topic that I wanted to discuss today, first step in protecting user identities. And interestingly, what we have done with this particular virtual seminar is to try and take a security perspective to identity and access management, especially hybrid identities. And why I feel this is critical is because a lot of people, especially administrators across the world, have cited the inability to implement authenticators being the biggest threat that their organization is facing. All right, and this is universal. This is a survey as recent as July 2020. I will share the slide deck with you to read more about it. But what's alarming here is more than 25% generally across multiple organizations. Administrators have taken this survey across multiple organizations over the globe, have cited the inability to implement MFA being the biggest threat that their organization is facing. And this number just keeps increasing to more than 45% for companies with 200 to 500 employees and nearly 50% for financial organizations. So the next aspect of my agenda is to try and give you a perspective of how easy it is to strike a balance between usability and security. All right, so one of the biggest qualms when it comes to multi-factor authentication is, the fact that it can be quite cumbersome, the fact that users have to every single time go through a secondary factor authentication before they log in and access a certain application, a certain service, or the machine itself. But what I'm going to do today is walk you through how easy it is, and also let you know that we as humans are creatures of habit, right? We are used to developing habits over a period of time. And I feel that this security habit is very, very critical. It's very important, given the fact that this will keep you multiple steps ahead as an organization, as an individual, when it comes to a potential cybersecurity threat. Having multiple factors of authentication at different checkpoints, once again, reiterating, different checkpoints, right from services, right from applications, your logons, access to certain devices as well, physical devices included, will keep user identities multiple steps ahead. In fact, a recent survey that came out early 2020 also said that nearly 90% of administrators believe that with just an additional factor of authentication, user identity can be protected. All right, so this is the world we are pushed to. We are experiencing cybersecurity attacks every single day. In fact, funnily, as we all sit together here talking about the importance of cybersecurity when it comes to hybrid identities, when it comes to hybrid identity and access management, nearly 4 out of 5 accounts could be targeted as we speak today. And this is what Microsoft has to say, right? So it's critical to have multiple factors of authentication enabled. And I'm going to walk you through how easy it is. Step 1, embed a reset password or account unlock operation right on the logon screens, right on your Linux, Mac, and Windows machine, making it easy for users to reset their password or unlock their account, thereby not having to call the help desk or not having to rely on technicians or administrators to perform a password self-service operation. And this can account to nearly 30 to 50% of your help desk calls. It is a proven fact given by Gartner that nearly 30 to 50% of help desk calls that an organization receives are password management troubles. So once I have the ability to perform a password self-service operation, I'm going to walk you through how easy this is. So I give in my username. I am going to give in the captcha right here. Once again, this is customizable. I will then have to verify my identity with the Microsoft app-based authentication. This is because this particular mode of authentication has been set as mandatory for me. So quickly grabbing the code, just give me a couple of seconds. This code is going to expire. I do not want a verification failure, so stick with me. I have a new code on my screen. These are time-based codes. I also have an idle time set, which is up and running. And once I was able to successfully verify my identity, I can then pick another factor to verify my identity, which is what has been enabled for this particular user. Let's go with Google Authenticator. to give us a little bit of variation when we work with different authenticators. So Google Auth. If you're wondering how I'm getting my codes, I have my mobile device on me, and I've not casted the screen because it's a personal device, but yes, I do have the codes handy. And once I am able to verify my user identity, not only will I be able to reset my AD password, my native Active Directory password, as an end user right from the logon screen, working remotely, I will also be able to self-service my Office 365 password because password synchronization has been enabled, all right? And as I go through a password reset process, I have a check against all the complexity rules that I have met. I'm going to go ahead with the password reset. Waiting for it to reflect. And my password reset has been successful live in about 15 seconds while working remotely right from the logon screen for not just my native Active Directory, but for my hybrid environment, all right? And this is how simple and easy it is to perform password management actions. And it's how simple it is to also empower users to take care of their own password self-service actions while doing it remotely, while doing it securely, with not just one, but multiple factors of authentication applied at different checkpoints. Which brings me to the next aspect of today's agenda, which is having a better password policy in place. You did see me set a password right now, reset my password right now, but funnily, the password that I reset is a weak password. I know for a fact that it's a weak password because it has certain characters that are predictable. It has certain patterns that are predictable, which brings me to the third aspect of today's session, for which I'm going to log into the AD Self-Service Plus console and customize a granular password policy, which can be applied for Office 365, G Suite, and multiple other applications. So quickly jumping to password policy enforcer right here. What I'm going to do is go through the custom granular password policy that's already applied. So one special character, one numeral, making it mandatory. I'm also going to disallow characters from the username, disallow characters more than 2 times consecutively, bring it down to 3. I'm going to restrict patterns based on dictionary words, based on patterns. Let me also include days of the week, months in a calendar. So you can go about and import an entire list as well. And also restrict based on length. You can, more importantly, not just display this across reset and change password pages, but enforce this across every single reset and change password console, your GNACP console, your ADUC console as well. Let me hit save. All right, has been successfully updated. And now getting back to my logon screen, I'm going to give in the password, but this time what I'm going to do is read it out loud. So the password that I gave in was password at 123. All right, it looks like it meets most of the complexity rules, and yet it will be rejected because it has a common word, it has a dictionary word, it has a restricted pattern, and it does not meet the password entropy, which is the susceptibility of a particular factor being compromised. Because a lot of times we are under the assumption that users have a better password, the password that we have are strong, are secure, but what AD Self-Service Plus helps you do is not just identify weak password, but also keeps users notified about passwords by displaying the password policy right across the GNACP console. What I'm also going to do, interestingly, is to perform a password reset process as an administrator right on my ADUC console for a particular end user. So I'm accessing the ADUC console. This is the utmost level of privileges that I can enjoy within AD, right? I have logged in as an administrator. I'm going to boldly uncheck this box, click on OK. And to your surprise, you will notice that this password that I set as an administrator with the utmost privileges for a particular user account has been rejected because a custom granular password policy has been enforced for the administrative accounts. You can also explore the weak password users report available. It's a ManageEngine free tool. You can also download this particular free tool and quickly run a test to check how many users in your organization actually have a weak predictable password. And if that number is alarming, it's time to step up your password policy. It's time to step up your security posture when it comes to weak passwords, when it comes to weak predictable passwords, while also taking into account password entropy. Because strong passwords are not just about checking multiple boxes, more complexity. Strong passwords are also taking into account the susceptibility factor of a particular password from being compromised. And that is what AD Self-Service Plus will help you achieve. With that, I have spoken about enforcing a granular password policy for better passwords. Now I'm going to quickly move on to the last aspect that I want to talk about today, which is the importance of access control. And when I say access control, specifically to user identities, I'm talking about control based on access to applications, access to authenticators, access to self-service actions as well, and which is something that you can definitely achieve with AD Self-Service Plus. So when you get started working with this particular application or any password management application for that matter, especially addressing concerns of your native Active Directory, which are not available with the native Microsoft setup, right? When you work with policies, when you work with permissions based on OUs, you can choose to provide access at different points. Administrators can perform multiple levels of self-service actions, whereas other users have to have restricted access, which is pretty interesting. And as you notice, you can see that the marketing OU has option to only reset password or unlock account. What I'm going to do now is open a new tab. Let's log in as an end user to get an insight from the end user's perspective. So let me log in as a user belonging to that particular policy. I believe this is the password that I had set, but all right. I do have different password for different users. So I'm going to check that once again. Yes, great. I am verifying my identity with security question answers because this factor of authentication has been enabled for the AD Self-Service Plus login. I click on continue, and now I am redirected to the AD Self-Service Plus console where I can enroll with security question answer. I also have a one-click seamless access to my Google account, my G Suite. And this is because single sign-on has been enabled for this particular user. Waiting for that to load. And yes, I have a welcome message. And with just one click, I have access to my AD Self-Service Plus. I'm sorry, with just one click, I have access to G Suite from my AD Self-Service Plus account. But this is how the portal looks for this particular user, all right? What I'm also gonna do is log in as Sharada with the password that we just reset. And once again, I need to verify my identity. I hit continue. I am redirected to my self-service portal. In this case, you can notice that I have a self-update layout. So let's say I update my office location to home because we're all happily sitting at home in the comfort of our homes, working remotely, very much in India. We're checking in from Chennai. So what's interesting about this particular self-update layout is these changes are reflected real time, all right? So you can pass on the privileges to certain users. You can also enforce the granular password policy for change password operations. Users also have the option to selectively change a particular application's password, provided password synchronization is enabled. And they also have access to authenticators based on the different policies that they belong to, and they can sign up with different authenticators right here under the enrollment tab. So these are the privileges that an end user has with a solution like AD Self-Service Plus. But that said, I'm going to get back to talking about certain best practices, certain tips and tricks that I would advise for administrators across the world to ensure that your security is top-notch when it comes to password management, when it comes to password security. And to keep a tab on what's happening in your end user's environment, you can quickly jump to the reports tab right here. be on the lookout for password expired users report. This is very critical because of the fact that you might stumble upon user accounts, just like Vivian pointed out, for certain other objects that you can stumble upon in AD Manager Plus. With AD Self-Service Plus, you might identify users whose passwords have expired over a year or more. These might be temporary accounts, these might be test accounts, these might be accounts that are created for users who no longer are part of the organization. But what's more important are these accounts are the most susceptible to a potential cybersecurity attack. And also these accounts pose the highest threat, because in case you get access to a particular account, you will not be able to identify if the user is still part of the organization or an insider or an external threat. So please make sure you identify these accounts, disable these accounts, and also delete them eventually if they are stale accounts. If not, if you identify users' accounts in your organization that have expired or are going to expire in the next couple of days, what you can conveniently do is also notify these users on a periodic basis. So my administrative password is going to expire in a couple of hours. But that said, I am going to jump to the configuration tab, go to password expiry notification, enable a scheduler, customize a scheduler, run it right now, and notify users on a periodic basis. So this scheduler was up and running, and it had notified a bunch of users. What I've done in the backend is I've configured all my test user accounts to one particular email address specific for the workshop purpose. So let me log into AD Self-Service Plus. Let me log into my G Suite, access my email to give you a quick glimpse of how email notifications look. And right there, Gray Summers, your password is expired. This is clearly a stale account, right? So this will give you an insight on trying to disable these accounts and periodically delete them as well. But more importantly, you can also trigger notification delivery status to administrators. You can also trigger notification delivery status to users, managers, and keep them notified about users' impending password or account expiration. And the best aspect of this particular feature, this particular module, is that it's absolutely free. So irrespective of having AD Self-Service Plus or not, irrespective of having a valid license or not, or a limited license or not, you will be able to trigger this particular module for all the users in your organization. It is an absolutely free module. You can also notify all users across the entire domain, the entire forest as well. And I hope that benefits users in your organization, especially during the time of remote working. All right, that said, I have come to the last aspect of today's session, which is to keep a tab on what's happening in your end users spectrum, right? So not just is it important to empower users to take care of their own password management actions, it's equally important to keep a tab on what's happening in your hybrid identity environment. Keep a tab on resets that happen, account unlocks that happen. These are actions that we've performed today. So self-update of personal information with details on what are the changes that have happened, when it has happened, from where the attempt has happened, and also, more importantly, a user attempt audit, a complete insight into everything from Windows-based logon to SAML-based logon as well. So yes, this will give you a complete insight into your password management spectrum, your scenario, and at the same time, relieve you the stress of having to manage users manually, relieve you the stress of having to attend to every single password management based ticket, password management based call, rather empower users to take care of their own management actions, but at the same time, be rest assured about the security, because security is our priority. And that is also one reason why we wanted to customize this session and take a security perspective on things, take a security perspective on hybrid identities. And like my dear friend and colleague Harry rightly points out, management is effective only when the security posture is good enough. So especially during the time of remote working, please keep a tab on policies. Please revisit your policies. Please revisit your permissions and access to different applications and authenticators. If you have more questions, you can always write to me at sharda@manageengine.com. But talking about Harry and talking about cybersecurity, we have another very interesting session that will be happening tomorrow. At the same time, I'm going to pass on the torch to Chris to walk you through a little bit about that very, very soon. That said, I also want to quickly let you know that this session has been recorded. This session will reach your inbox. Just give us a couple of days to process the raw edits so that you can get a polished, furnished recording of this entire virtual seminar, along with our slide decks as well. That said, if you do have any questions, please let me know in the chat box. I will take time to answer them. Vivian is also with us. I'm also going to quickly request my dear friend Karthi to drop in the poll for the day. And I would also like to sincerely apologize for going beyond the time frame. I do understand that we are much beyond the stipulated time, and it's not great, but I really hope the session was informative and the session kept you glued to the screen. Please take a couple of seconds to answer the poll that is listed on your screen. This will help us understand our audience better. This will help us in evaluating, in helping you evaluate our solutions better, and also assist you in case you require any. And before I pass on the baton to Chris, I also want to let you know that the feedback form will be posted on your screen. And I would like to pass on the torch to Chris to take over the session. Thank you so much for being a wonderful audience, and I really hope it was informative. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharada. Right. Let me share my screen, guys. I'm going to give a heads up on some important resource that you guys can, work it out. So as you guys see on my screen, there is an Active Directory Academy. There's a kind of a knowledge hub about how you guys can manage and maintain your Active Directory. That's available on the ManageEngine website. And once we share the presentation slide decks with you guys, the link is going to be there. You guys can make use of it. And also about security hardening for Active Directory and Windows servers. And that link will give a good insight, a step-by-step procedures guide for us to increase and strengthen our security posture. I would like to highlight, it's a great insight shared by Vivian with some live demos and how, we can increase and strengthen the security. Not to mention that random passwords can be easily achieved. Still, it's a challenge with native Microsoft. And about Office 365 or G Suite or Teams can be all done in one single go with a directory sync. So your Office 365 license management or litigation, it can be all done with our AD manager, and bulk action with templates and tight integration with your HRMS tools or your database, or from reporting solution, or directly from a ticketing management system. So it's a pretty good insight. And the highlight on that is, even this application is available as a mobile app. I sometimes use it from my mobile, and an admin with the current remote work in place, he can literally manage his AD management activities from his mobile app, available on Android and Apple stores. And about the security aspects of it, understood customers might be fully reliant on their native Active Directory, or they are in a journey from native Active Directory to Azure in a hybrid way, or they are fully on the Azure environment. So ManageEngine has solutions to manage across the whole cloud adoption journey. So if you guys are in the process of this cloud adoption journey, then AD Managed solution, a component of our AD 360 solution, will be an ideal aspect. If you guys are already matured, already adopted to cloud, and you're fully reliant on Azure, then we have Office 365 Manager solution as part of AD 360 component, where you can literally manage your Office 365, administration, management, and reporting of it. That in detail, you can manage the whole aspects of Office 365 tenancies. Then last but not the least, there's a security element to it. Yes, AD Manager Plus is a management tool, but auditing, so that's going to get covered in detail tomorrow. So we have a security incident and event management with anomaly detection, managing internal and external threats. So that's going to get covered tomorrow. So it's going to be AD auditing or Microsoft 365 security solutions. These things will be handled tomorrow. And good insight shared by Sharada as well. It's much appreciated. So what's MFA in next level and where, how it can be utilized, how we can strengthen or increase the password compliance, password policies, and enable end users. It's an end user tool to enable them account unlock and password reset and synchronize the password with SSO, with any other application, third-party applications. The best part is about the multi-factor authentication to the VPN connections, because with the current remote workforce, VPN being the primary source, you can apply it. And the cache credential update. So for the users who are not part of the domain, trusted environment or traveling quite often, they can very well use the cache credential update so that they can log their account and reset their password with a trusted VPN endpoints that's configured in the AD self-service application server that talks to your native Active Directory. That's about it from my end. And as you guys can see, so tomorrow's agenda is going to be on security aspects. So it's going to be the similar introduction, strengthening cybersecurity with machine learning and artificial intelligence, and security incident and event management, how we can check the data, read the data, what sort of insights, analytics, and how we can remediate based on the detected threats or anomalies. So it's going to be an interesting session tomorrow, guys. Much appreciated for your time today. Thank you all. Thanks for the speakers. And if you guys need any questions or if you guys need any local support from us, please do reach out to us at sales@softsolutions.co.nz or sales@manageengine.co.nz. And we are always here to help and enable you guys with our ManageEngine solution. Thank you all. Thank you very much. Thank you, team.